And we are live. And guess what? I'm not alone today. And guess what? Mr. Sultan Pasha is with us today. Welcome, everyone. This is News Knows, the first, the only, I think, channel in English dedicated entirely to the more obscure, to the lesser known, to the long forgotten items in perfumery. Gabriel's with us. Hello. Just a reminder, when you log in, please tell us where you're coming from. Cosine, hello. Lakshmiara, Forever Fragrant Kid. Hello, everyone. Ashfaq, Sultan, and everyone else. Amelia. Hello, everyone. I already said hello, everyone. I'm really happy to see you. Today, I'm going to try to keep it short, but then again, I always say this because it's 4th of July. So if you're in the United States or elsewhere and you celebrate this dear day, happy 4th. I was trying to get in the spirit, but as you can tell, I'm a little bit not experienced at this. This is the best I could do, particularly because today we're going to talk about bondage. If you don't know what bondage is, go Google it right now. Come back and tell me what you found. Paul from Cluj, Raluca from Italy, and Andrea and Shivarsky. Hi. Let us know where you're logging in from. Pulp Frags. Hello from London. Happy 4th to everyone who's celebrating it. So, today is 4th of July. Seattle. Welcome. Today is 4th of July. I have guests, as I always do. So, I'm going to try to keep it short. We'll see how this works. Yesterday, somebody on one of my other videos asked me a question that is riddled with either something really good or something really bad. So, you tell me. He was asking in a very normal voice and with good punctuation, what criteria do I use to determine whether a fragrance is relevant or not? Now, if you're talking about science, you have to make sure that the premise, the question you're asking, the hypothesis is valid and asked in the right way, because you can't have science based on questions that are not scientific. This question is faulty to begin with because it assumes, without verifying, that I actually use criteria to pick stuff based on relevance. It also assumes that for me, relevance is a criteria to picking things, which is kind of like a circle, one of those erratum circles I can't get out of. And today, actually, it gave me pause. I was trying to find something, actually last night, trying to find something relevant for this kind of day and this kind of subject. And you know what? I couldn't. I stuck with what I had in mind for today. It is not American. I would have loved to present an American perfume. There are plenty of good ones out there. But for today, what got implanted in my brain is a French perfume from a house that nobody talks about much, that I think imprints a very, very fine attention to detail and coincidentally falls in the same category as last week's fragrance, and that is fragrances given to us by jewelry houses. Today, we're not talking about Cartier or Tiffany's or L'Eniraide or Bulgari or others. Today, we're talking about an actual long-standing, I will present it. I'm sticking to what stuck to me. Today I'm talking about Mauboussin. Mauboussin, if one of you can type it, or if not, Mauboussin, there you go, is a long-standing luxury jewelry line started in France a long time ago, who at some point, just like many other houses that started as jewelry houses, took the lateral step into another luxury field, another feel-good, hedonistic field, and that is, of course, perfumery. Mauboussin, just like Cartier, made sure to hire the best of perfumers, and like others, paid a lot of attention to their flaconnage. I will show you another example of Mauboussin, which I think is filling a gap in what's needed on the market today and provides a better option for people who are into this kind of fragrances. This is not the fragrance I'm going to talk about today, but I want to show you the attention to detail because this is one of their more recent flacons. This is called Elixir d'eau. It's a gourmand and it's a much better composed, in my opinion, variant to Lancome's La Vie est Belle. But look at this bottle, okay? It is clear that this has been designed for this. Theoretically, there should have been another version of Elixir pour Elle that was an extrait that is a stockier bottle, but along the same lines. Look at this. I mean, this is a brick. You can kill somebody with this. Look at the top. Look at all the details. Of course, my camera likes my eyes more than it likes shiny stuff, as it normally happens. But even if you look at, you know, the imprinting on the bottle, everything is very well thought out. This is a 3D sculpture, if you want. And to me, that says something. Of course, I'm not one of those who cares more about the bottle than they do about the juice. You can give the juice to me in a jar. But, oh, I probably mention it because the Lenéaïde, particularly the Fleur Poudrée du Musc, which I presented last week, is something that stands out. And the Opoponax, particularly the vintage version, I think is a good and very good for its value, resiny composition. But this is the example of what I mean, attention to detail when it comes to flaconnage. It does look a little bit like the Hypnose by Lancôme, but this is way better made. And the juice inside is really, really, really incomparably better than La Vie est Belle. My theory is that what was the base that developed this fragrance was composed actually the year before the La Vie est Belle launch, and I believe La Vie est Belle was inspired from here. I mentioned La Vie est Belle because Europe is riddled with La Vie est Belle. Everywhere you go, every single bus, every single gathering, every single party, 30% of women are wearing La Vie est Belle. This is gourmand, sounds like and feels like La Vie est Belle, but it's deeper, better blended, better performance, more sophisticated, and it has a patchouli somewhere down that actually livens this up, takes it into a little bit mentholic, and I would, you know, it could be worn by a man, particularly with what Tom Ford is launching nowadays. But that's a long intro to show you the bottle I actually want to talk about today. It's one of the best cheapies in the world, and I call it a cheapie because compared to everything else in our collections, all of your collections, this is at the fun end of things, at the end of things where you don't have any problem blind buying, and where honestly you should be blind buying. I support $20, $30 blind buying in the crazy fraghead community. More than that, I think, is up to you, but this would be my safe space. Although I do end up buying $20 bottles blind every once in a while, so that's a different story. But the one that I'm talking about today is probably one of the most horrendous bottles I've seen. It's not uncomfortable, though, so that saves it, and that is called Histoire d'eau. History of eau, which means water, but eau is an homonym, sounds like O, letter O, right? So, Histoire d'eau looks like this. It comes in one of these like plexiglass, also well made, but it is plastic. All of them leak, and they have a purple line here. Purple because the outer coating is purple. It's kind of like a exactly. Histoire d'eau, je vais t'aimer. We'll talk about it in a second. So I don't know if it's unfortunate for me. It's kind of laughable and kind of endearing. Oh, you poor thing. All of you suffer from this, whatever this is. So you see a cylinder made of plexi. in it, there's a vesicle, a bubble of fragrance. The color is, as you see it, it comes slightly lighter. It doesn't go much darker as it happens with others, particularly from Mauboussin. So the color doesn't change that much. The top looks as whatever this looks like to you, and it's one of those annoying things that you have to switch in position to spray. So one is off and one is on. You have to touch this nasty funny looking knob in order to do that. There's more plastic on top of the knob, and that is it. This is the bottle. This is a 60 ml. No, so 40 ml. They have 40 and they have 60 milliliters. Vaporisateur eau de toilette naturelle. Okay. Okay. Now, Histoire d'eau. If you put it next to the smell of this, means absolutely nothing. So if our friend from yesterday, hi Cornelia, if our friend from yesterday, that's my mom, guys. My mom is here. I can't say anything bad. And I'm going to talk about bondage today because that's what happens when my mom decides. It has a knob head. Yes, it does. To me, it looks like more like a female part, but hey, that's just in my brain. Maybe because I know what I know about it. Hello, Mom. So if you try to relate the look of the bottle, which is very 60s, very Jetsons, very what we would have imagined the future to look like back in the 40s, back in the 50s, back in the 60s, with the juice, which is not futuristic at all, with the name, no connection, nothing. There's no way to contextualize these three, and I'm really good at contextualizing stuff. QQ, hi. Irina, hi. Strange to them. Yes. Say hi to my mom. Hey, Mama Sandu. No connection. It drives me nuts. My latest review on Saint Laurent to two bottles that I'm going to eventually be talking about, because one of them is, I think, a replacer for something that got discontinued this week and got a lot of people really, really sad. That's next time or the time after that. I talked about the mating rituals of anglerfish. I talked about the release of zinc in the moment of sperm fertilizing the egg. It's just how my brain works. I'm really good at contextualizing stuff. In this case, there's nothing. Zip, nada, nada. Unless, of course, you look at Histoire d'eau, even though it's spelled as in French, water would be spelled. Histoire d'eau. If you replace EAU, O, with letter O, what you get is Story of O. And if you don't know what Story of O is, go look it up. You'll find a whole shebang on Wikipedia about an erotic novel published in 1954 by a lady who was or wasn't into bondage. We don't know. This is the best I could do to relate, in public at least. Okay. A lady called Anne Desclos. She had a nom de plume. She had a writing pseudonym, and that was Pauline Rage. It was published in French as Histoire d'eau, the history of eau, by Jean-Jacques Pauvert. She didn't disclose herself as the author of this novel because, as you can imagine, in 54, French or no French, bondage and consensual rape and all that stuff was not necessarily something you want to talk about at the dinner table. But the plot involves a woman who is submissively involving herself with a society, a secret society in Paris. And as a result, she becomes a belonging to this very talented dude who gives her to everybody. And because this becomes, as a result, and over the course of this novel, the symbol of pretty much every hole in somebody's body that somebody might present as an offering to somebody else to do what they please with. It sounds interesting. If it sounds interesting, go read it. If it doesn't sound interesting, don't read it, but go to Wikipedia. It's a very interesting approach to a subject that particularly back then was a very, very big no-no. If you watched 50 Shades of Grey and you thought that was fantastic, go with the story of O, because story of O was at the base of 50 Shades of Grey. Whoever says otherwise, they're lying. If the author of 50 Shades of Grey says otherwise, she's lying, and so on and so forth. Crazy taboo. So there's stories with like tying, with like gagging. Okay, I can't gag myself. I'm sorry. Right now, only because there's a very strong knot. I would otherwise, but I don't have anything on hand. So bondage, tying, rape, all sorts of sex, leather, rings, fun stuff. Ow. Fun stuff. So, if you run across rings that look like those, basically like, I don't know the word in English, the cuffs that one would put around somebody's arms or feet, legs, with a ring on it. So it's a ring with an O hanging off of it that, cords could be tied from and so on. That's a symbol of story of O. The book, of course, has a cult following. A lot of people know about it. A lot of people have read it. I have read it, but somehow did not make the connection with this until very, very late. Paraphernalia is being sold all over Europe. There are reenactments. There are secret societies, not so secret anymore, that practice all sorts of things. There's a lot of literature. Hot outside, and the topic is hot, yes. And I was trying to dress up, and this is the best I could do, a ripped up shirt. So, it's an interesting approach. A lot of it has been put side by side with feminism, in questioning what it truly is, in questioning what power of agent is, power over its own body, their own body, her own body, my own body, and so on and so forth. It raised a lot of nasty ideas, and it raised a lot of interesting questions. So for that, the novel, of course, in my opinion, deserves to be mentioned. But the fragrance, if it's meant to pay homage or raise a certain association with this novel, it does, only if you know about the connection. Otherwise, like I said, there's no context any of us can create to relate the bottle, which looks like a futuristic clit, basically. I don't even know what to call it, because that's how I see it. I don't know what knob head means in English, but I'm guessing it's around the fun parts. I don't know. Futuristic 60s weird contraption. The liquid inside, and the name is like, I have no idea. Christio from Virginia. Happy Merry 4th. So let's talk about the juice now, because Lord knows I'm talking about other stuff that have nothing to do with this, unless you really, really can make the connection. Mauboussin created this, or ordered this, or released this. I don't know how long it took to make it. I know they take their time with their fragrances, or they used to, kind of like how Masque is doing today. Sentitar. This is in my top 5 cheapies of all times. It can be found probably in stores, but I couldn't tell you which ones. But it can be found on eBay for a song. I've seen it anywhere from $20 to like $35, not more than that. For something that's under 15 that performs and smells the way this does, I think is one of the best values I can possibly expect from any juice ever. And I could see it in Nu-i nepoată Lușa, așa se spune el, nu-i. My mom is picking up on Afshak because all she heard is auntie and she doesn't know. Auntie e un termen de drăgălire pe care îl folosesc cei din partea lui de lume, că e din altă țară foarte departe, să se refere la persoane de sex feminin care sunt mai în vârstă. Cum mai spune doamna, tanti, ceva genul ăsta. Ok. Close the parentheses because my mom wants to know what's up. And she can't ask after. She needs to ask right now. And if your mother asks, if your mother calls, you pick up. Always. So, I was saying that Mauboussin, just like, you know, some of the niche fragrance houses today, take their time with their releases, or used to take their time with their releases. And I don't exactly know how long this took. It was launched in 2002, so it's a pretty old release now. It smells very much, if I were to put it somewhere today, it would be very much in anything launched in the Tom Ford edible lines. It would be similar to something you would smell from, let's see, what other house could make stuff like this? I could see it in, I don't know why, in Santa Eulalia, kind of, if we're referring to niche. I could see it. I could even see it as maybe some in the Wilhelm Parfumerie, something like that. So it's definitely niche quality, and I know a lot of people hate reading that, hate hearing that, hate seeing that, myself included. But if you refer to niche quality as creativity, good exercise in blending, and originality, I guess, then yes, this is niche quality. For me, niche means creativity and execution more than anything else. I don't refer to performance as one of my measuring fragrances, but I know a lot of people do. For me, niche comes from creativity, more freedom to create. This is creative and very wearable. If you look it up, you'll see that it is listed as a spicy oriental. Sure, I guess it can be. When I hear spicy, I usually think about hot stuff. This is not hot, but it is very warm. It is very warm and very glowing. This is a day, solar type of fragrance. Not day as in to be worn during the day, but solar kind of fragrance. This is a very outward looking, very expansive, very expensive smelling, whatever's in it. Very friendly, very stable, and very self-sufficient kind of a fragrance. Oh, no, not at all. That is exactly what I told her. We have an equivalent in Romanian, and that's exactly what I gave her. There are a lot of warm things in it. There's cardamom, which is rather clear. I smell a little bit of saffron, kind of like almost like the Iranian kind of saffron. Very, not necessarily foody, but going towards textural, velvety type of things. There is some, there are a lot of peppers, mixed peppers. I almost feel a little bit of allspice, even though it's not disclosed. I would say it can go either or. I've worn it in colder weathers, and at night I've worn it in hot weathers. Maybe I shouldn't have, because it becomes a little bit sticky in my brain, but different notes develop, and I'm going to tell you how. So it's built on a very, very fine leather accord. When I say fine leather, I don't mean the leather is fine. I mean the accord is very refined to my nose. It's not overbearing. There's a little bit of birch, just enough to give it just enough terpenic, I don't even know, nuances to lift it out of food and foodie. It has just enough pine, just enough smoke, just enough. And when I say smoke, don't think you're going to choke. I'm just talking about very, very subtle nuances that lift this out of gourmand territory with all those spices and put it somewhere else. It does have a nice amber. I don't know how it's built. I think it's a little bit of benzoin, and I feel a little, just a tad of something like copal almost. So a newer, sweeter, slightly smoky, slightly medicinal resin, but sweet at the same time, still sticky, still from the tree almost. And the vanillic notes in it, allow me to spray it again because it does evolve. So the opening, I'm talking about the things that you end up with, which is where my heart is. But the opening is also very interesting because you don't expect that kind of smell to come your way. I know it's a little bit of a decomposed review. I usually start with, what the nose perceives and the first puff, and then the 15 minutes into and the 20 minutes or whatever, and the base is. This time I'm talking about all together because all of these ingredients are ingredients I like, are things that my nose picks up throughout the application. They just have different manifestations. So, and I love them all. Truthfully, I really, really like this. Whatever this wonderful liquor is. I didn't tell you who composed it. It was a Christine Nagel. So Christine Nagel has, to my experience and to my brain, a certain kind of hand with fruity notes. This doesn't make an exception, even though they don't list anything, but there are fruits in it, and I will tell you which ones I pick up. It does. So that's why I said it's a very fine leathery accord, because I do believe everything participates in lifting everything else up with some very surprising terms. So I talked about the spices. There are spices. There's cardamom. There's definitely a beautiful crocus in there, saffron. There's some nutmeg. There's some allspice. There are several kinds of peppers, I think. There are a few bitter and pungent herbs. I don't exactly know what they are, but I do smell some sweet herbs as well, kind of like marjoram, if around there, like sweet marjoram. I talked about the amber. I think it's built with benzoin and maybe something like copal or something like a more neutral resin, and some vanillic notes that could be pretty much anything. I don't know if there's tonka in it, but I would guess there is, because I feel something like on top of my, like at the tip of my tongue. And I did tell you about the very fine, very gentle leather. This is not a leather coat. These are not suede gloves. It's just a very conceptual, in the back of the mind, probably, reconstructed differently than what you would expect leather to be made of. I don't feel anything powdery, for example, in the leather accord, but this does have a rather interestingly textural, fluffy feeling to it a little bit. I don't know where it's coming from. Like I said, it does have a little bit of terpenic something. I don't know how much birch there is in it or something that mimics it. I don't know how much recreated animalic there is. If there is something, I would guess it's more like towards castoreum, but very, very, very finely calibrated. Like whoever made this, whatever they used, has a very, very fine hand. And the director of creation, whoever they were at Mauboussin in 2002, did a marvelous job at not only imprinting whatever they had in their head, but fine tuning, dialing with the perfumer to end up with this result. It's a very rounded fragrance. Doesn't smell the cost, but then again, nothing smells the cost. I don't know what could warrant smelling like $500 a bottle if the entire bottle was something that's if the entire bottle would be charging for the ingredients. I don't know what $500 would smell like. So nowadays, you don't know what you get. I'm just telling you, this smells like something you can find sold for much more money, even launched today. It's very actual, if you want. It's very in tune with the better side of what niche produces today. Apart from all of these, there are some very fine floral notes. I could swear I smell osmanthus. I could be completely off, but that's what I have in my head. A very fine quantity of osmanthus. I bet it's not, because osmanthus is very expensive to put in perfumery, I guess. Maybe it wasn't back then, or maybe it was even more expensive. Have no idea what was happening in 2002, but I smelled slightly bit of osmanthus. I smell some very neutral musks. They're there just for supporting everything else. And there's a very interesting candied orange, bitter orange. Imagine bitter orange or a bigade that is candied. Christine Nagel of EAU. Exactly. I mean, Christine Nagel did a lot for a lot of others, but she does have a touch with fruit. I think she made the original Alain Delon. There are very few actors whose fragrances I like. Alain Delon is one of them, and I think she made the original one. Lira from Alain Delon was also very good. So their creative director had a good, idea of what to produce. I think she made. What else did she make? She made Teorema from Fendi, which also has a cult following, right? And it's also a very interesting recreation of a fruity accord. In Teorema, she recreated peaches. In this one, she recreated plum. So I was telling you, it's not declared, but there are very, very specific created effects that make this not exactly what's on paper. On paper, you read the ingredients, you'd expect something like deeper, more solid. This is very liquidy. It's almost like a plum liqueur. It's very boozy, very friendly boozy, if you want. It's an interesting overall creation, because it can't be measured by the ingredients in it. So I was telling that she recreated a plum accord in this. There's very, very conceptual, interesting, but clear plum accord that makes the whole thing a little bit licorice and liquidy and soft and sweet-ish. This is not very sweet at all. It's just balanced enough. It does have boozy accord, so think a little bit rum, think cordial, think that direction. There's a roundness to it I can't explain and I haven't often met in other fragrances. I also pick up a few very nutty effects of whatever's in it. I would be very, very interested to hear what some of you great noses on the I don't even call it chat line think of this. I would love to have it decomposed in finer lists of notes, because like I said, it's one of those very rare cases, which I absolutely enjoy. I think this is where the fun is, to look at something, look at the official description, look at what others have said, and put it together with what your nose fixes to figure out, or not, for simple, express what's, I don't even know. I can't find my words. That's how much I like this. Seriously. It's not hard to describe. It's not hard to smell, and it's definitely not hard to wear. But I would do it a disservice if I treated very clinically to say, this is the first stage, this is the second stage, these are the notes on base notes or fragrantica, and, you know, it lasts for 8 hours. I think that would be a disservice. The whole package is much more than that. So I told you the ingredients that I pick up kind of clearly. There's some yellow flowers in there. I would go towards like black locust, which I put in the yellow flowers category. Maybe some honeysuckle, something like that. So something florally, but rather neutral. I talked about the orange. I didn't finish talking about the orange because there's a little bit of candied peel smell, candied orange peel, tangerine maybe, tangerine peel smell, but candied. So it's almost like glassy. You boiled it with sugars, so it's still fragrant but almost glassy in manifestation and smell. Apart from that, and maybe because of that, like I said, the total effects, the imprinted effects, the perceived effects of these go towards boozy, go towards rummy happy, go towards rummy clovey. It doesn't have cloves, maybe nutmeggy, all spicy, Christmassy almost. It goes towards fruity, plummy, jammy, cordially, but not sweet, almost like a marmalade that you have with a good ripe cheese. So everything in this is well constructed for the kind of price you can find this at and for the house it's coming from. I smell a few nutty notes, very few. No, it does not. This is a more Virwang Poem in my head. Is a more distancy kind of fragrance. This fuses. Is one of those fragrances that you don't necessarily feel all the time, but it, as you sit, it's not that you become anosmic, but it fuses with your skin and it emanates. So it projects more when you move. It does have sillage, good sillage. The projection is small, so I distinguish between projection and sillage. Projection is your bubble when you sit. Sillage is whatever you leave behind when you're not there. It can be in an elevator after you've come out. It's, you know, what's there when you're not there. So this, very much like some of the attars I have, in this, the projection is small. So if you sit, the bubble is small. Somebody has to be close to you to smell it. But if you move, the trace is long and rather particular. So what a beautiful thing. Apart from everything that I mentioned, that would, I guess, in my head, put it in the fruity leather. I would say it's a fruity leather. I'm not even sure there's a category called that. But apart from all of that, there's some nutty nuances that I want to mention, because I do think there's something with pit fruit. So plums, peaches, apricots, and everything around that have a particular kind of manifestation. In this, I find something that is more like apricot seed. Have you ever, if you were kids and bored like we were, because we didn't have TV and stuff in communist Romania, right? So we were running around in the countryside all day, all night. After you eat the apricot, you get the pit. With that pit, you can do a lot of things, including if you rub it on a stone like this until it has a little bit of a hole, you can use it as a whistle. You blow air, and that air goes around what's in it, the the pulpy part inside the pit, comes out through the same hole and makes a really, really sharp noise. If you're lost in wilderness and you need to make noise, this is one of the ways you can do it. You can also do it with an acorn cap, but I'll show you that some other time. Or maybe I can show it to you now. You want to see? Imagine. This is so random. These are the things you learn when you watch me. Let's say this is Mouboussin, Peru, right? Let's say the cap. Oh, no. Never mind. That's not a good example. Okay. Let's say this is a cap, okay? Not sure it's going to work because it has a bump. But if you put your fingers in a way to cover the opening of the cap like this, and you create a V, very tiny V, you do it very tightly, okay? Like that. There's only very, very little left. Huh? Like that. That's how you make sound with something that looks like a cap or an acorn cap. If you're lost in wilderness, your foot is stuck somewhere, you can't leave, and you need to survive, this is how you call for help. All right. Now, let's go back to apricot seeds. You take an apricot seed, you rub it on a stone or something harsh, right? And you rub it and you rub it, you create a little hole. That's how you can use it. If you dry it, Lucas, my brother Lucas is on. I'm talking about what you can do with an apricot seed. And I displayed a survival skill for those who get stuck on the rocks in wilderness. It does have something similar to Dame Blonde. Yeah, similar. Okay, apricots, you eat them. You either make the whistles or you wait until the seeds dry. Then you break them and you can eat the seeds. The inside of the seeds of apricots functions almost the same as almonds. Almonds grow in a pulpy flesh, which is good to eat when it's green. You soak it in salt water, then you eat it, and it's amazing. It's a delicacy. It's very, very milky and delicate and salty and a little bit indecent in my head. And then there's an outing that becomes very hard, kind of like an apricot seed, and then you break that hardy woody part, and inside there's an almond which you can eat. It's the same thing. They're kind of related. They're not in the same family, but they're kind of related. So if you do that with an apricot seed, you would see that it's slightly florally, slightly leathery, I guess, slightly almondy, slightly bitter. It has a very, very, very particular flavor, which you can encounter sometimes if you buy apricot seed oils. So there's an earthy notion to it, kind of like carrot seeds have the same type of earthy, bitter, a little bit tannic. Something's going on there. Something interesting is going on there. This has some of that apricot seed nuance. Boroi. I'm going to look it up. I'm going to know so much about what grows in Bangladesh. Seriously, by the end of a year of live sessions, borois. Okay, boroi. I have to look it up now. So there's a little bit of that kind of nuttiness. I also pick up a few, like I said, a few herbs that I didn't see listed. Sweet marjoram is one, but also something slightly for $20. Seriously, people. This is if you do a blind buy, I would say try before you buy. But this could replace some other much more expensive variants of this kind of fruity, leathery, ambery concoctions. And if you do remember Theorema by Fendi, give it a nose. I personally don't like what she created. So this is Christine Nagel. I personally don't think what she created with Hermé is the same quality as what Hermé did in Hermescence. I mean, the Mira Eglantine, what else did she do? She did the Agare Bene, those. Cyanide, yep. I don't think they're the same quality of composition. I'm not talking about execution. As everything else from the Hermescence line, but she has some interesting same type of like fruity, leathery, ambery concoctions that are interesting. So if you're into this type of smell, I recommend giving this a nose, particularly because now, like somebody was saying, she only does Hermé, she does Jo Malone's, she does stuff that do not cost $20. So, she did the Galliano, which I also have, and that's another recreated plum. Beautiful, beautiful. Let me show you it. For those who are into that kind of, yeah, don't laugh. It's 4th of July. I'm trying to be like American. I am American, but hey, these are the Gallianos I was telling you about. Again, a horrendous bottle, but then it's just Galliano. The smell is interesting. These are vintages long discontinued. Another good example of an interesting recreated plum accord. She has something with these pit fruits for sure. Merca. Okay. So you understood nothing from today, but at least you know how to survive in the wild and you know how to make noise out of a acorn cap. You also know it's 4th of July. You have something an hour into this presentation and you're walking away with bondage, survival in the wild, and my boobs. I don't know. But, seriously, now, this is one of the fun discoveries that I love to talk about. This is one of the juices that absolutely deserve their worth. Deserve their price. I personally think they're worth more, particularly because who doesn't want to find something that doesn't cost an arm and a leg nowadays? I have plenty of those discoveries. I do too. I like 1889 from Moulin Rouge, and I think their 69 is a good peach, recreated peach somehow. Weird. Kind of in the same realm of happy juices, happy smelling, not taking oneself too seriously, not too artistic, but well composed and well executed in this case, even though there might be or there might not be a connection between this and the bondage novel. You need to rewind and see the introduction, because I talked about bondage and erotic novels, because this is apparently how this is connected to Histoire d'eau. Even this gesture now looks really indecent, really indecent. Oh my God, I'm going nuts. Today is going to be a fun day. I have guests coming, and we talked about one of the best discoveries I made in the realm of cheap fragrances that are good, that are solid, that are happy, that are well executed, well composed, and well packaged, I guess. We're talking about it. So, this is it, folks. If you like this kind of materials, make sure to stick around. Like, share, subscribe, follow, the whole shebang. I'm not very good at marketing because I don't think I want to be myself. I'm not selling myself because I'm way too expensive to sell myself. Paul Franks. Tell others. And if you want to be let known, it reminds me l'envol, kind of. Huh. Yeah, I can see that. Click the subscribe, click the bell, click the whatever you want to click. Be safe. Good night to those who are really, really far away. Thank you for visiting, Mr. Sultan Pasha. For those of you who don't know, Sultan is with us and knows a lot about what goes into fragrance, like many others. And yes, let's say it together. Keep it real, but keep it kind. Okay? Wear it well. Good vibes ever, forever. I don't know what I'm saying now. I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. I'm saying good stuff. Thank you for coming. I'll see you next week. I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week. But if you want to read another really weird and very contextualizing review, go on Saflobon. I have a thing there that talks about the mating rituals in anglerfish. And there's a draw for those of you in the United States. Kisses and have a good weekend.